hear now? John, if you don't mind muting while you're not speaking. Stop. John, I believe we're ready whenever you are there, sir.
Mike Kelly, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, give me 1 second. I apologize, folks. My computer decided it needed to update when we have a meeting. I have no idea why, but it seems to think that that's a good thing to do. So I'm on 2 computers at this very moment, trying to get my face in the other one so I can hear everybody. All right. So
we are on YouTube now, John. So we're recording and live.
Okay, good. I apologize for what is going wrong. Well, we'll go on this one and live with what's happening on the other computer. Very good. I can see only 6 people, so if anyone has something to say, somebody let me know. Right now we have okay, hang on. All right. I'm sorry. Yes. One more second, and I will. There we are. Okay. I hope everybody can hear me now. I will call the meeting of Chalfont Borough Town to order. I see we have a definite quorum present. And just, John, would you call, I'm sorry, Mayor Wallace, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir?
Will.
Uh-oh.
Stand, or are we just?
No, can't stand.
The Pledge of Allegiance?
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, you're just breaking up, John.
Yeah, I'm getting every other word.
Okay, well, that's not good, and I don't know
There you
why.
go.
Mayor, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and hopefully something will straighten out on my end?
Will.
Thank you. Okay, it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I've called the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Wallace. Would you call the roll, please, Sean?
Yes, Brian Wallace. Tracy Bowen.
Here.
Here.
Jeff Coddington.
Here.
John Engel. Mark Glidden.
Here. I am here.
Owen Curran. Not me. Mike.
Here.
St. James. Shirley Corlin.
Here.
Pat DeGangi.
Here.
Rich O'Brien.
Here.
All right.
Thank you, sir. This meeting is being recorded as well as broadcast. I am aware of one addition to the agenda, which will be under new business, which is a letter from Kevin Johnson, our representative on the Planning Commission. We'll get to that. We just received the correspondence today. Sean, do we have any public comment?
No.
Okay, no public comment. Would anybody care to make a motion for the consent agenda to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the June 9, 2020 council meeting with disbursements from the general fund?
So moved. Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Okay. It's written there. We've got it. Is there a second? Second?
Second.
Any second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by thank you.
Mr.
All those in
President,
favor
if I
signify by
Mr.
Yes.
President, if I may?
yes, please, Mr. Coddington. Yes.
In our June meeting, I asked to be on the record, which was the written record as well as the recorded record, in regard to my objection to backburnering the police pension program and how the police commission and its finance committee is handling that. I don't see that in the minutes anywhere. I don't know if it's appropriate at this time to bring that up and have them add it, or should restate my position again. So restate my position again in this meeting and have it recorded in the minutes of this meeting.
You could do it either way that you wish. You could do a motion to amend the minutes, subject to council approval, or you could just have your position stated and have it reflected in this month's meeting.
Okay, I'll restate my position for this month so we don't have to redo the minutes.
Very good. Hey, you have already done so, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll make sure that's in the minutes. Sean, you will do that, I know.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Okay, then we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any other comments? I see none. So in that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We have no special items, which will bring us to the mayor's report. Mayor Wallace. Unmute, Brian.
Sorry about that. I have nothing to report as mayor. So I'll move on to the Central Bucks Regional Police.
Go ahead, please.
Just a couple of updates there. Jeff, I will make your objection known at the next Finance Committee meeting, as well as at the next commission. The real news right now is actually we're opening the bids for the new police station on the 30th of this month. So that will be helping us progress with all of the work there. I think they're going to start shortly after that. We're looking at sometime August, September, with a shovel on the ground possibly. So that's moving along as well. In addition to that, we are in the middle, I'd say, getting into the meat of negotiations with the union for the police department. And those are moving smoothly at this point. We're going to get into some more of the dicier issues coming up soon. On the 16th, the Delaware Valley Insurance Trust is going to present a presentation in Doylestown Borough to explain our proposal for the health insurance. The health insurance is a Blue Cross PPO. I think it's a pretty sweet plan. I've been through dozens of health insurance plan, and from my standpoint, this is the gold standard of insurance. So I think that will go well. We might have some questions, but I think that's going to go well. Marilyn, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything other than if any council member has any questions about the building project, I'll be happy to answer those either now or privately. But we do have, the bid process was extended by 2 weeks. That's why we're not voting on it this evening.
John, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Not at this time. I will also get the finance committee meeting, and we will once again make Chalfont's, Jeff, your position and Chalfont's position well known.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is there a possibility of getting an update, a 6-month update in terms of where we are in terms of funding in the pension plan right now?
Well, we recently just had a meeting about a week and a half ago, and that was to address the issue of how much real estate was going to be in our portfolio. We reduced that from 2% to 1%. The real estate investments are all commercial investments, and they are not really very strong right now. All the growth in the real estate field is in residential rentals right now, and there's no real vehicle to invest in that from a security standpoint. So we will be meeting again with them probably in the next couple of months to get more updates on that, as how they're structuring that. So yes, I will keep you informed on where we stand on that the next time we hear. Probably a couple more months. I think at the end of the summer, we'll have an update from them as well.
Thank you again.
Mm-hmm. That's all I have. Unless there's any questions. Okay, that's it for me.
See none? Go ahead, Brian. No, you're done. Okay. Carolyn Jacobson, Public Works Committee.
Yes, the report's in the packet and we have an item later this evening that I can talk about at that time, should we need it. That's
Very
all I
good.
have.
Thank you. Mr. Coddington, Facilities Committee report.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. The only activity we have right now, Sean and I discussed the other day the possibility of getting plexiglass dividers, plexiglass dividers for the for Borough Hall that would go between where we all sit to give us the ability to meet in person. I believe those bids are due in this Thursday. Once we have those bids back and we discuss it openly with the rest of council and make decisions on what we want to do, we can talk about how we broadcast meetings with plexiglass dividers being used and the ability to meet in Borough Hall. So it was just a thought a little bit outside the box on a way for us to get together versus go to meeting and get down to the hall, take some chairs out, do social distancing, do some things to get back in the business of doing business for our constituents. And that's all I have.
I heard about that idea and I thought it was very good. Nicely done, Jeff. I think that was a great idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Myerson, Utilities Committee. Oh, you're welcome.
Nothing to report this month. Once again, due to the virus, there's just nothing going on.
Okay. And I think I'll just say ditto to that on finance. We have no new update on the finance. It will be a while before we hear about the earned income tax. And we're seeing a very small, very, very small effect, as I reported last month, on the property tax collection. So that's all I have on finance. And Mr. Couch is not here, so we will move to staff's report. The manager's report. Sean Curran.
Yes, the only thing I'll really touch base on here is that the police building, at the request of multiple bidders, it was a group decision to move the bid opening date back to July 22nd in order to give the prospective bidders more time to prepare. So that was on the architect also, put forth his his support for that. It was kind of a short time frame to begin with, so. That'll move it back to, it'll be an August discussion for bid approvals.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Oh, yes, please.
I have a couple of questions since we got the manager up. One, with the Bristol Road closure, I could have sworn it was mentioned that they were going to just keep one lane open and not close it all. Two, did PennDOT not consult with Chalfont Borough about the wisdom of closing Bristol and 152 at the same time? What happened with that? And when you answer that, I'll have one more question. Thanks.
Yeah, there was no discussion. We saw via press release from PennDOT that the roads were going to coincide. We did make it known to them. We did, we had concerns, and they assured us they would do their best to keep traffic flowing. As far as Bristol Road goes, that was kind of a back and forth. Originally, it was going to be one lane. Then they weren't going to have to close it at all. And then they were back to closing the whole bridge. They said it would be faster due to there was less traffic when that decision was made on the roads, and they saw an opportunity to get it done faster. So.
Well, I think it's more than just a hindrance to the public, but it's also a safety question, getting emergency vehicles around when you have two main arteries closed at the same time. Just want to commend the manager, acted quickly to resolve a neighbor's complaint surrounding Holland Park. We cleaned up a lot of the borough's vegetation that backed into his property. I just want to clarify one thing. There is a rather large dead tree in Holland Park. Sean, do you have an update as to when we may see that tree removed? I'm a little concerned about pieces of it falling down on the kids that play there.
It is scheduled with the contractor. It's been pushed back 3 times. He's supposed to be starting work on the 20th.
Of this month?
Schedule, yes, of this month. He's doing, I believe, 6 trees for us in multiple parks, but that's one of the trees that's on the list.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I spoke with a PennDOT representative, and I got an answer that was, well, with COVID, we got pushed back and we have to get these roads taken care of before school, so we're doing both of them at once. And I wasn't real pleased with that, but I think perhaps he was actually being forthright and honest. So,
Mr. President, add to that, it's not in Chalfont, but our covered bridge is closed as well.
Yes, it is.
So you have every down route and out route blocked pretty much right now with construction projects.
I will put in the Bristol Road Bridge is also not in Chalfont Borough.
Relative to Bristol Road and 152, I think we get the answer, that's PennDOT. And Bucks County, I believe, is doing the covered bridge. But yeah, it's not a good situation. Mr. DeGangi, engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 items to mention. Chestnut Street Park is coming to a close. We issued the final inspection punch list just today. There's a few items on that list for Rutherford, the site contractor. And then the playground equipment supplier, their work is all done. So we're starting to wrap that project up. The other item to mention is the 2020 road program. Work has started on Patriot Drive and Independence Way. They're doing concrete work currently. So they've milled. So paving will be shortly.
Very good. John Torrente, anything to report from the solicitor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just have one thing to report on, and it kind of touched on in Mr. McGinnis's report by letter to the board or to council, is that in June 24th, council did have an executive session to discuss a personnel matter. So that's all I have.
Okay, so John, you broke up a bit, but if I'm not mistaken, your report was that there was an executive session held on a personnel matter, was your announcement?
Yes, that's correct, and it was on June 24th, 2020.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Don't know who's doing that. Police report, I'm sorry, I'm reading this and looking at Chief Knott. Police report?
Hi, everyone. No report other than what's in the packet for tonight.
Thank you, sir. And back to Sean for the public.
I'd like to add to Chief Knott's report, I actually forgot this, is that we swore in our second police dog, Odie, on the other day. I have yet to see the picture, but we actually have a picture with Odie's hand on the Bible, taking the oath of office.
Thank you, sir. And Sean, Public Works report.
The report's in the packet.
Very good, as are the Chalfont EMS and Chalfont Fire Company reports, which moves us to action items. Would anyone care to make a motion to confirm the termination of a borough employee on 6/26/2020?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Joe Coddington.
Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion to be had, realizing this is a personnel matter? We do have to be a bit careful on what we may say. I see none, so therefore a vote is...
John, I'll just add that I think the borough manager handled the situation in a very professional way and swift action. That's all.
Thank you, sir. I've just lost my video. Can people still hear me?
Yeah, I can see and hear you.
Hear and see you.
Okay, I can't see anything, but I won't worry about that. So please let me know if you have something to say, because I can't see your hands or faces at this point. Would anyone, we'll move to action item number 2. Would anyone care to appoint Sean Curran as Borough Secretary on an interim basis until such time as the role is filled permanently?
Mr.
Don't we have to vote on?
President, you had a motion and a second.
Yes, I lost my video and I lost my mind at the same time, obviously. I didn't realize it was connected to the computer that closely. I apologize. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to confirm the termination of a borough employee on 6/26/20. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. I don't know who to thank, but thank you for keeping me straight. Now I will ask if anybody would care to make a motion perhaps to appoint Sean Curran as a borough secretary on an interim basis until such time that the role is filled permanently.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions, comments? I'm hearing none. I hope I'm correct at this point. John Torrente, do we need to make this a roll call vote?
You don't need to make a roll call vote unless there's a vote for no on it.
Thank you,
So
sir.
unanimous, you're fine.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is
Aye.
anyone opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. And just give me 1 second and let me see. People are back on my computer. I have no idea why, but I will argue with success. The third action item concerns Resolution 2020-05. And this resolution, please don't anybody make it yet, will be relative to the parking consolidation and streetscape plan project, incorporating inclusion of that into the borough master plan. Before we consider this motion, we need a presentation. And Mike, I am too far from my computer to try to sound out your last name. Please help me out.
Sure thing. My name is Mike Buki. I'm with Boucher and James.
Thank you, Mike. I apologize. Okay. I believe you want to tell us a bit about the streetscape plan from Boucher and James.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the parking consolidation and streetscape plan we've been working on for the past year. The report was prepared with the help of a DVRPC grant. The intent of the report was to identify strategies and improvements recommended by the 2013 revitalization and TOD plan that the borough did. I have the plan and I am able to go through the plan in detail if the board would like, or I can answer questions. I have the ability to share my screen and go through the different plans and the parts of the plan for everybody. It's up to council how I should proceed next. What do you think?
I guess, does anybody have any, let's start out with specific questions. Does anybody have any specific questions? I see none. Mike, can you give us a brief overview of what is in the report, especially for the public who may not have the benefit of seeing it in front of them?
Sure. Okay. So a brief overview. What we did for the borough was we conducted a study of the parking and streetscape scenario in reference to vehicular circulation and pedestrian circulation. The study area encompassed Main Street from Old 202 Butler Avenue up to essentially the train tracks. It also included the borough's property, the old firehouse, a Wow Cow location. And the east-west limits were basically the properties along Main Street. Okay, so it was a pretty small area of the study, but a very crucial link in the borough's core. We visited the site and conducted an analysis of the existing conditions and the opportunities of the existing features and the constraints. For example, the street itself, Main Street, is a narrow street through that corridor, which could be viewed as a constraint and an opportunity. It actually slows down traffic, but it limits the opportunities that we might have for improvements. The public was certainly involved. There was an extensive public participation process, and it included meetings and outreach to stakeholders in the community and interested parties in the community. One of the focuses was to make sure that we understood the views of the public with regard to who lives within the study area. Okay. And what we actually found, while I'm on that topic, what we actually found with that is that generally speaking, properties and owners north of Borough Hall, which is pretty much in the middle of the study area. The properties to the north of Borough Hall were generally residential and felt as if the existing conditions could remain the same, desired in some cases for the existing conditions to stay the same, status quo. And the properties to the south of Borough Hall were somewhat the opposite, where they were more excited about potential changes to connect some of the areas behind the buildings and to add parking because it would benefit their businesses. Okay, and through this plan, we produced 5 plans, and 5 plans are general layouts of some suggested ideas and potential concepts for how
Excuse me, Mike.
would be laid out.
Can I ask you a question about that? So why were the people north of Borough Hall more reticent about joining in this plan?
Sure. Most of the properties to the north of Borough Hall are residential properties, single family or multifamily residential. So they were less interested in going down the path of connecting properties in the rear of the property and adding parking on their property and that sort of thing.
So it's just because they didn't need it, really?
Generally, yes. Right. Okay, so I mean that's the gist of the plan itself. I could share my screen and get into the details of the plans and see if there are any comments with that.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Engel, I think it would be good if you shared with us, Mike, from the Borough Hall parking lot to the pop-in, that area. The Public Works Committee had at least 2 sessions, if not 3, with the consultant, and we were excited about the possibilities of connecting the Borough Hall parking lot with the other parking lots to the corner of Butler. It looks like it could be easy to make that happen over time. And what this plan provides us with a vision of sharing parking, having fewer entrances onto Butler Avenue, and making it just easier for traffic flow and for businesses. So I don't know how easy it is for you to share that and maybe talk through that section of shared parking from the Borough Hall.
Yes, it's very easy. So let me share my screen here. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. You want to talk us through it a little bit, Mike? Can you?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Sean?
Before, if I may interrupt, I believe we're looking at sheet 4 of 5 on page 31 of our packet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. You can see the page.
So if it's easier for anyone, go to page 31 of our packet.
And Borough Hall is at the top of the screen. Maybe you could talk
That's 33 of the packet.
Well, 31 and 33 show it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They're slightly different, but they show different markings.
or either Mike or Sean, you might be more familiar. Just talk through the plan for the Borough Hall and area. Because there is the walkway from the street to the
Right. So one of the aspects that you just mentioned, this is the sidewalk or the pedestrian connection to Krupp Park over here in this location, and the streetscape. This is Main Street here, 152. This is the Borough Hall. Do you see my cursor when I'm moving it around the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. And then the potential to add additional parking spaces along Borough Hall. There's an existing parking lot here. You can see some of the cars already parked there. So that would be the improvement to the borough property. The red lines depict the property line. So you see where the borough property ends here. Okay. And all of these improvements would be on that property. All right. So one of the more important aspects of the plan would be the connection to properties to the south along Main Street. Okay, so then there would be, for this particular concept, there would be a connection here toward the back of the properties with additional parking spaces here. And some of these properties already had parking behind them, but they would be reconfigured to be more in line with the connection. Okay, with this, some of the access points to Main Street would be closed off. Some of them would remain open. In this concept, for instance, this connection to Main Street would still be open. And you see the new pavement or the new proposed pavement is depicted as the gray shaded areas, and the proposed parking is depicted as the white lines here. Okay. So the connection would be made all the way down to Pop In here at the corner, which is just off of the plan here. But those are these parking spaces here, and you can see that there would be a connection made in order to connect Pop In with Borough Hall, all in the backs of all of these buildings. Okay.
Question, is there any insurance issues with this? Or property insurance?
This is just a conceptual plan at this point. All those details would have to be worked out as we progress with the project.
And how about, is there an increase in impervious surface?
Most likely.
Yes.
This would...
Is that going to be a problem?
Not necessarily. It just needs to be managed. So we need to, this is basically taking a wide angle lens of the area and identifying the problems and providing some solutions. The next step in this would be to pursue a more detailed engineering design. And as part of that design, we would get into the detail about how much impervious surface is going to be added, and how to mitigate the additional stormwater runoff from those impervious surfaces.
What consideration have been given to traffic flow directionally back there? Because you come down the Pop In from Borough Hall, you're gonna have a tough time getting out of there.
Right. So this would not necessarily invite a cut through, because essentially what we have is we have the individual properties more or less maintaining their current layout and giving each property the availability to have parking in their backyards. But it adds the connection. It adds this feature of being able to meander through the backs of these properties and connecting in that way. Okay. We also did another concept that simplified the whole area and provided basically a single parking lot.
That's on 32 of the packet.
Right. So that's this plan here. Okay. So sheet 5 of 5 of the plan itself. Okay, so essentially with this, the borough property would remain the same as far as the concept, but behind all of these buildings, it would be simplified into a single parking lot Okay, and some structures would have to be moved in order for this to happen, but this is the layout that could be considered more understandable and more easily able to navigate.
All right, so
Is snow removal one of those things to come later as to who's responsible for snow removal and all that?
Absolutely. That would be decided as the whole process progresses.
The property owner that's next to Borough Hall, was he at the meeting? Because the parking spots are right where his little outbuilding is.
In this version, they are. In the other version, his outbuilding stays, his secondary structure in the back. But yes, I have had discussions with him, and not sure, he understands that we're thinking about it. But it is his property, so there would obviously be a process to it, and he would have to agree to it to make it happen.
Preliminarily, has he given any indication if he's okay with, that looks like an income producing property. It looks like it's viable right now.
Yes, he's an investor in properties, and that's what he uses it for. All the units are currently rented. He does not live there. So
Okay.
It's Campbell, isn't it?
yeah.
So would the idea then be the property owners own those parking spaces?
That all would be discussed. It would depend how this progresses. If we wanted to pursue it as if it was a borough lot, and or if we wanted to, each property would have the potential, they would still own what's on their ground, or they would have designated spaces. There's a lot of options. We would try to work with the current residents to make it, best fit for everybody possible.
Was any of the meeting with affected property owners affected by the COVID and virtual meetings and that kind of thing, Sean?
The last meeting would have been where we would have met, with the completed plan done. I did reach out via email, and we mailed letters and asked for responses. We did get a few. I would hope that even after this is, passed and the grants closed out, when things get back to normal, I would hope to still sit down and, invite all these affected residents, property owners in, and have that final meeting with them to discuss it. This is just a preliminary plan, so obviously anything could change in construction.
And it is, as I understand it, in order to complete the grant, we do need to approve this into our master plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you remind me, is this a matching grant? What's Chalfont's commitment for this?
20%. So the grant is for $50,000. It's as part of the Transportation Community Development Initiative. And it's a $50,000 grant, and the borough is under contract for a 20% match, $12,500.
And is 50,000 budgeted for either of these two plans? Or would they come in at 50,000?
This was just for the design. Basically, we've already spent that money. So by approving this, this becomes part of our plan, and we would move forward with it. But they didn't project any, actual cost for building it.
Okay. So that would be another grant likely, like we would incorporate this into our plan and use the grant money we were allocated just to update the plan. And then we would go out and seek further grant money in order to execute against these plans?
It's an option.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Mike?
Sean, do we need to pick one of these plans to put into the master plan, or
No.
can we can insert the concept of all of these? And that gets.
We would actually, I'm sorry, I stepped on your talking there, Mike. What we need to do to close out the grant is to include the planned project report into our master plan. Have I stated that correctly, Sean?
I'll ask Mike, but I believe, yes, that's what you're looking for. We just need what we really need is to pass the resolution, just, confirming that, the project is completed at this point, to this point. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, that's correct. The parking consolidation and streetscape plan needs to be adopted by Borough Council officially by resolution. And then it will be submitted to DVRPC and the grant will be closed out.
We're not locked into any one of these, or even some of the details of some of these can change certainly as well.
Absolutely. We're not committing to any design at this point. This is just, to help us guide us.
So if you look at page 17, you'll see the resolution.
What is our financial commitment? Voting yes to this resolution tonight?
No, we've already spent the money for this grant.
Spent? All right, so this is to close. All right, so this is to close it out.
Exactly.
Mr. President, let me just.
Yes.
This was part of a planning process. This is kind of our vision of the area. And this means that in the future, if a property owner decides to sell their property, then we can encourage them to possibly do the shared parking. Also, it opens us up for grant funding. So this is kind of the foundation that the borough needs to move everything forward. Just like we had the transportation development, the TOD plan, this is another tool in our toolbox, essentially, which in the future, hopefully we can make these things happen and make our business area more viable. So we have a plan. That's what we need to do first. It could take us 20 years to make it all happen, but this is the first step.
We, back in the early 2000s, we had studied this to a certain degree with Melissa Schaefer, and we talked a lot about it. So, yeah, this has been already on the horizon for quite a while.
Well, not to this extent. That plan talked about shared driveways, shared parking, fewer driveways. This one is much more specific to the area.
And back to the question of what are we voting on? After all the whereases, which are explaining why, the resolution is now therefore be resolved, the Chalfont Borough Council approves by adoption of this resolution the completed study from Boucher and James for the parking consolidation and streetscape plan. So this is, we are voting only on acceptance of this concept plan, which, had significant amount of work put into it to look at the possibilities. And we want to include them in our master plan. It also legally or financially or whatever the word should be, effectively closes out the grant. Mike, if you can unshare, if you have anything else you want to show us, number one.
I do not.
In that case, would you stop sharing your screen and then we can see everybody's face? Thank you. It's an adventure. It's definitely an adventure on the GoToMeeting website. So at this point, I will actually, for the purposes of discussion, after a motion is made, if it is seconded, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-05, recommending inclusion of the parking consolidation and streetscape plan project into the Borough of Chalfont Master Plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, and now is there any further discussion?
Mr. President, I would just like to say that this is very important part of what the council members are supposed to do, provide a vision for planning in the future. And that's what this does for this area. So
Indeed.
I'm certainly in favor of passing this resolution.
I would say in a nutshell, and Mike, I'd like you to correct me if I misspeak. Basically, what this does is give us concepts, call it food for thought if you wish, but some basic concepts of a direction we might want to go, which is why we commissioned this work. And this is the result of that work being completed at this point.
That is correct. These are just concepts and ideas. It gives you a very detailed analysis of what is out there, and it gives you some, basically a framework of your opportunities that you have in order to increase the parking scenario in the borough and make the pedestrian and vehicular circulation improved as well.
And the potential pickup in parking spaces is considerable, ranging somewhere from 6 spaces in the first concept to page 30, I believe 20, a gain of 21 spaces in the second concept, which is about a 20%, a little bit more gain in parking downtown in that central area from Borough Hall down to down to Butler Avenue, basically. So is there any further discussion from council? Questions, comments?
My only other concern is security. And the fact that you're gonna have an alleyway of sorts back behind an inn. That once we get back to normal business, there may be some people that take advantage of coming out of an inn back there. So that's my concern.
Well, maybe what might happen though, it actually might even be a bigger concern, Jeff, because concept is to get other businesses back into some of those buildings. Maybe another restaurant or something like that. So you might have a bunch of people back. I get your point, but it's almost our goal. I think lighting and, like you said, security, maybe cameras or something like that is the way to go. But that is our goal, to get them connected. Maybe more businesses in there, not just residents.
I see this as what we might be able to do, not a proposal of what we will do. Any other further?
Because we will, if we can get at least one section of it working, then maybe the other people are reluctant, can see an advantage of it. The people that are north of Main Street. I actually share my driveways with my neighbors because it's really advantageous. It's better for them to get out of my property going in one direction. It's better for me to get out on their property going in a direction. So it's kind of obvious in my situation. It's really, and actually if we stop doing it, it would really be detrimental to both of our property values. And I think that's how it has to be sold to somebody, is that it wouldn't be detrimental to your property values now, but in the future could really enhance them. If you did have a lane back there. Hopefully we can bite on it.
Don't take me wrong. I'm in favor of the project. That was just a concern.
Sure, absolutely.
Anything else from council? Mike, thank you for your work and your time. At this point, I see no other hands, so I don't think I've skipped anyone. It's a resolution, so we need a roll call vote. And Tracy Bowen.
Yes.
Jeff Coddington.
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. Mark Glidden.
Yes.
Carol Jacobson.
Yes.
Mike Kelly.
Yes.
Mitchell Meyerson.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
It's good to have this kind of information in front of us and in our master plan.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time tonight.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for your work.
Mike, please thank Judy Stern for us.
I sure will.
And our next action item, number 4, is a motion to ratify field changes mentioned in the attached email on pages 42 and 43 of our packet. Would anyone care to make this, who should, Pat DeGangi or Sean, who would be best to give us some background on this so people understand what we're talking about?
Pat's here almost just for this, so I'll let him.
I think it should be Pat then. Pat, help us out, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As my email says, this field change, it's not your typical field change, and I asked Sean to put it on council's agenda to ratify actually what has already commenced. As you know, the Chalfont Crossing development is using the Chalfont Green basin for their stormwater management. And in the process of converting that basin from a sediment basin to a permanent bioretention basin, they have to remove, over 3 feet of soil in the bottom of that basin. Rather than haul that soil off site, the developer has asked to create a landscape berm adjacent to the basin. It's in the open space area, the Chalfont Green development. So we, first asked him to contact Chalfont Green HOA and get their permission. The HOA isn't in agreement with it. They've negotiated having 10 additional trees planted on their tract, as well as provide 3 pedestrian or 3 benches along their pedestrian walkways. We also asked that they contact the Conservation District. They did. They met with the Conservation District. Conservation District's okay with it. And we looked at it from an engineering perspective, and there's no impact, adverse impact from an engineering perspective. They worked out all their drainage issues. So, it doesn't change the plan for that development as far as lots are concerned or as far as road layout is concerned. It's it's more or less a landscaping addition that they've asked to incorporate into the project. So if council's so inclined, we ask that you vote to ratify the change.
So Pat, is that they're digging 3 feet deeper? Is that what's happening on the basin?
Yeah, I mean, the conversion from a sediment basin, it's a sediment basin through construction to collect and filter out sediment. When you're done that process, they have to put in 2.5 feet of amended soils at the bottom of that basin. So they have to excavate and then actually over excavate to put that 2.5 feet of amended soils to then make it a bioretention basin where they're going to plant wetland plantings in the bottom of that basin.
Is that clay? When you say amended soils, is it like clay so it doesn't percolate or something like that?
No, quite the opposite. It's more organic material to allow plants to grow and help infiltrate and add some water quality, filtration.
Right. So they're really just asking to keep the soil on site then.
Exactly. Yeah, they would have had to haul, excavated no matter what. But the cost of hauling, I imagine, was pretty costly. And rather than do that, they asked to create this berm.
Well, plus these guys have no place to put it. That's the problem is, where are you going to store all this soil? So they'd rather keep it on site.
Mr. Myerson.
Will this basin have standing water in it for any length of time?
Not for any length of time, but the idea, the concept is it'll retain water for a short period of time. You're retaining some of those smaller storms. You're allowing that to infiltrate, but there is an outlet to the basin, so it's going to be a slow release.
So will there be any issues with mosquitoes?
No.
And the reality is the basin will be there regardless of the berm.
Correct.
Pat, based on the ground that's there now, how tall is this berm going to be?
It's going to be
Read the elements.
It's going to be almost 6 feet tall from existing grade at 4-to-1 slopes.
Okay. And this has been approved, well, it's been requested by Metropolitan and approved by the HOA, correct?
Correct.
Pat, a follow-up question. I know this might seem a little extreme, but is there, it takes a little imagination, but is there a situation where this would encourage kids to use it in the winter as a sledding thing? Well, we're going to have a bunch of kids at the bottom of it, given time.
Yeah, I believe that basin does have it will have a fence on that side. Yeah, split rail fencing, I think, is there.
Anything from anyone else?
That they don't want to go over the easements, is that's why it's as high as it is, that you can't flush that up and feather that out a little bit more because it would go over the sewer easement?
There's limited room there because of a sanitary sewer easement. So they're keeping it in between the sanitary sewer easement and the basin.
Right, we're talking dirt, so it's not like they couldn't dig that back up. You're not building anything or planting anything over that, but you still want to avoid the easement even if you had to go back and dig that up later?
Yeah, I also represent quite a few sewer clients, and the deeper you make my pipe, the harder it is for me to dig it up in the future, and you don't look to make the pipe deeper. So I think that the sewer authority, I don't think they wanted to approach them with knowing that.
Yeah.
Anything else for Pat? In that case, I believe we can do a voice vote. So, nobody else has a comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody opposed? That motion carries. Thank you all. Resolution 20, next action item number 5, resolution 2020-06. Don't make the resolution because we have to talk about it. The resolution of the Borough of Chalfont authorizing an application to the Greenway Trails and Recreation Program, grant the amount of $249,971 and designating the borough manager and council president to execute all documents and agreements between the borough and the Commonwealth Financing Authority. Who is the best to give us some background?
Mr. President, I could jump in here and
please do. Please do, Pat.
So this is a resolution to make a grant application for the Northern Neshaminy Greenway Trail. And the trail would lead from the Patriot Place development, Patriot Drive, along the North Branch of Neshaminy Creek to the existing trail at the end of Lindenfield Parkway, which leads to the North Branch Park. There's also a segment of trail that would connect this proposed trail through the Harriet Carter site to the newly renovated trails in the Chestnut Street Park. The project's been estimated at $294,084. The grant requires a 15% match. So the grant amount is just under the allowable grant amount of $250,000. It came in at $249,971. So that's the amount we're requesting, and the match would be $44,113. Now this trail has been a part of the borough's master plan. It's also in the tri-municipal trail and greenways plan that the borough adopted back in 2010. So it's been long looked at, and this is a way to get hopefully get some money to put towards it for free.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. DeGangi? Must have been a good explanation, Pat. No questions.
That's pretty.
Would anybody care to make a motion as I stated earlier, and as stated as action item number 5 of our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I believe it was Marilyn Jacobson and Mitch Meyerson. Is that correct?
That was Mark Glidden.
Mark Glidden. Okay, I'm sorry. I was writing things down. I wasn't looking.
It did sound like Mitch, though.
You're talking to a guy who can't hear. It all works out good. Don't do this to me. Is there any further discussion, question, or comments? I see none. A vote is in order. It will be a roll call vote on a resolution. And we will start with Tracy Bowen.
Yes.
Mr. Coddington.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Glidden.
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Meyerson.
Yes.
That resolution passes unanimously. Moving to action item number 6, our 2021 MMO for the non-uniformed employee pension plan in the amount of $29,068. This would be a motion to approve the 2021 minimum municipal obligation for the non-uniformed employee pension plan in the amount of $29,068. And this was prepared by Element, as shown in your packet. Would anybody care perhaps to make a motion?
So moved. Marilyn.
Is there a second?
Second, Jeff Connington.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, it is an expenditure. We'll do it the easy way. Tracy, am I missing anyone? Does anybody have a comment, question? Okay, I see none. Tracy Bowen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jeff Coddington.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mark Glidden.
Yes.
Marilyn Jacobson.
Yes.
Michael Kelly.
Yes.
And Mitchell Meyerson.
Yes.
That vote carries. And our last action item, another resolution to establish temporary requirements and guidelines for food truck or mobile food units areas and associated outdoor dining areas during the COVID-19 opening plan. And for the application or review of applications and fees associated with the borough administrative activities. Sean, do you want to talk about this, or is there someone else who should?
Well, Rich, do you want to?
Yeah, this resolution is something that Sean and I put together because we have been approached by numerous food truck operators that want to operate on borough businesses in the borough, in their parking lots. I think this is a request because a lot of the weekends, festivals, and the 5K races and everything where they would normally show up are canceled for the year. So they're looking for somewhere to go. And for one reason or another, they have scoped out Chalfont as a place to go. Put this together, again, please if you have any ideas you want to add to this or any ideas that you have come forth, there is no private authorship in this. This was just put together in association with the pandemic guidelines for opening as put forth by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we're just floating it to see if there's any interest in it. And it would only be for a 90-day period until October 13th, 2020. Correct, Sean?
Yes.
And there is a $50 fee associated with this, and in conversations with our manager, my understanding is this is basically not a money maker, but a break even to allow proper inspection and consideration of the application.
We keep records of their Bucks County Health Department records, and it actually asks for a sketch of the property to see where they're going to be located. And then there will be a cursory inspection once they get on site to measure distances from the property lines, make sure that the tables are set 6 feet apart, that whatever tables or picnic tables, whatever they have out front, are going to be 6 feet from any access ways or anything like that, to determine that they're not blocking any parking areas or any aisles or anything that would put people in danger in the parking lots.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So my question would be, have you spoken to existing brick and mortar restaurants? Are there going to be conflicts? You know, there's only so many customers available. I know this happens at certain coadjuring malls, strip malls where they have restaurant, and certain people are locked into, well, we're going to be the pizza guy here, we'll be the barbecue guy here. What's to protect existing restaurants from unfair competition? All of a sudden they've got a new food truck outside of their business competing with them. How does that work?
A current resident or current property owner would have, like a current business owner would need to make the request to have it on their property. So, I mean, it is a little bit of a slippery slope, but they can't just come in. This isn't for the food truck to make an application and just come set up wherever they want.
So this is for existing brick and mortar saying, hey, I want to add this.
Yeah, correct. The only thing I see that could be a problem like that would be is if the property owner wasn't the restaurant owner and the property owner came in to request this, that would be between them and their tenants.
So like China Garden and Rita's, that would be a prime example of where also, but I think Brian might know this better. Would China Garden have an exclusivity agreement?
Rita's was one of the people who requested a food truck.
And would China Garden have to give an okay on that, do you know? Or that's up to the landlord?
It would be up to the property owner.
And then say, Penis Pizza could add a food truck as well then.
If they to a number of parking spaces and are able to get the clearances, yes.
Okay.
But without this resolution, it would be a free-for-all, correct?
I have been putting people at bay currently because we really don't have anything in place for this. That was the genesis for creating this.
Didn't we have the lobster truck show up last weekend?
Yes.
You want to see that?
Yes. Yes, I did. It was at Rita's.
John, I think your office also glanced at this too, correct?
My office?
Yes.
I know Mike McGinnis had reviewed it. I did note there was one minor change that we recommended. It was section 101. where it says ordinance expiration, it should actually say resolution expiration. Is this,
And that will change.
yeah. So if the council is inclined, it would be subject to that revision.
The copy the council has in their packet has made that change.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions before we get a motion so we can then have more questions? It's the way it works. Sometimes a resolution may be, or a motion, excuse me, may be made for the purpose of discussion, but I think for the getting background, it makes as much sense to do that. And then we have to fulfill the requirements of the state law, the borough code, and have discussion after a motion and a second before a vote. So would anyone care to make a motion to approve resolution 2020-07?
So moved. Mitch?
Is there a second? I'm sorry, I heard a second, but I don't know who. Tracy or Marilyn, I think.
Either. I think it was both of us. Pick one.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on the motion to approve resolution 2020-07? I see none. It is a resolution. And just in case anybody's getting bored, I'm going to go backwards in alphabetical order. Mr. Myerson.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly. Yes. Mrs. Jacobson.
Yes.
Mr. Glidden.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Coddington.
Yes.
And Tracy, but Mrs. Bowen.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. Old business. 35 Lime Kiln Pike. And I'm sure I know what this is, but I want to make sure that I'm not wrong. This was the CKS letter to Mr. Sharkey relative to 35 Lime Kiln Pike. An issue that has been going, if I may say, back and forth, I will say that. Given that it's a CKS letter, Pat, would you have anything you'd like to add or say, but to say about this?
Well, I'll just state that, Sean had asked me to put together a letter explaining, the circumstances relevant to the question that Mr. Sharkey brought up at last month's council meeting concerning his the stormwater review associated with the deck proposed on his property. And as I explained, that it was it was one of 3 building permits for that property. The first building permit, was for a house and driveway construction. The impervious area created was over 5,000 square feet. So they were subject to, rate and volume control in accordance with the stormwater management ordinance, as well as the preparation of a site plan for it. We reviewed that, and that design and construction went in, and it was oversized. I think it was a 5,600 square feet of impervious. That design would accommodate 6,000 square feet of impervious. The second application that was received was for this deck, and what we did is just simply review that against the original design, and it only added 192 square feet. So, it was absorbed within the first building permit, design and construction of stormwater management facilities. And then there was a third application for a shed, which was over 1,000 square feet in itself. And then that also put him over the 6,000 square feet that his design would accommodate. So he had to do a a little infiltration trench around his shed for that shed. It was part of that review of those. It was in the review of those 3 building permits. Mr. Sharkey looked at the minutes from when we created the stormwater ordinance, the planning commission meeting minutes, and lo and behold, in those minutes, I said that decks would not be considered impervious. So in hindsight, we probably should not have looked at that way, but all we did was check it against what they originally designed for.
If I could jump in, one thing, Pat, the original discussion with Mr. Sharkey included that second application for both the deck and the shed. After consultations with Mr. Sharkey and my staff in the borough, he separated them out into 2 different applications.
Sure. But as I was saying, it didn't change anything as far as construction was concerned. Mr. Sharkey's comment last meeting said that we've been wrongly assessing decks. That hasn't been the case. This was the first and only deck that we've reviewed for stormwater. Again, it was a review against what was already designed and constructed, and what was already constructed would accommodate it. So that was the explanation.
And without that deck, the shed still put him over 6,000 square feet if we ignore the deck.
Correct.
Still put him over the 6,000 square feet. And he still would have to do something associated with the shed.
Mr. Meyerson.
Question, Pat. So I'm a little confused here, and in my line of work, I would like to know this anyway. So is the deck part of the impervious surface calculation or not?
It was submitted as such against our ordinance, and I reviewed it as such.
But is it supposed to be or not? For future people.
The impervious area in the ordinance do not address decks.
So in the future, decks don't come into that play then, is what you're saying?
I am going to revert back. Yeah, that's a good question. Some people would, it's debatable whether they get included as impervious or not. But based on my comments back in 2010, I'm just going to stand by them, and in the future, we're not going to consider decks.
Go ahead, Mitch.
No, I've been listening to you.
I was looking at some other ordinances, including recommendation from the state, and the thing that struck me was they said decks themselves are not impervious, but if there is a compacted gravel or other impervious surface added under the deck, typically to prevent infiltration into a basement, to direct water away, but it creates a compacted gravel or compacted soil, which would then become impervious. So I think we're in a gray area, and Pat's comments, basically where we are right now, as I understand it, is the decks are not specifically addressed in the stormwater ordinance, and that may be something that would bear some examination in the future. But relative to this, we have to go with what was there. And so, I don't have an answer for the future, but based on what I've seen in this letter, he went over, the property owner was going over 6,000 square feet, so he had to do some additional work.
I think decks are kind of left in a gray area because it's up to the engineer to make the decision based on a case-by-case basis if it's required. Some decks obviously would be, less affected than others depending on the property and the grading. I think that's why it's left up to the engineer. As you look into it, that's what everything says.
Okay.
Well, some 2-story decks could have a roof underneath it with a drainage going away, and now you don't have all that surface anymore.
Yeah, it is a slippery slope because Buckingham Township ran into this a little while ago at Buckingham Forest. These are $700,000 homes, and they wouldn't allow them to put decks on because the impervious surface was maxed out when they did the development. So Buckingham declared, I guess, passed an ordinance that decks would be considered impervious surface. And of course, you own a $700,000 house and you can't put a deck on it, you are upset. But I think that was the end result, was that they wouldn't allow them to put them decks on there because it was compacted. But I think from Pat or Rich's standpoint, you know, I think the guideline is, what kind of deck is it? You know, you put a tongue and groove porch deck on there, then you created impervious surface. You just put a regular pressure treated deck on there, you have it. And that was my argument against what Buckingham did, was they didn't really define impervious surface, or what created impervious surface for a deck.
To Sean's point, the ordinance does allow the engineer to make the determination whether it should be considered pervious or impervious, and where it's not addressed. So, I mean, it could be on a case-by-case basis.
So it is in the ordinance.
Oh, yes. That the engineer has the ability, the engineer has the ability to determine whether it should be or not be impervious. But it doesn't specifically address decks.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. DeGangi or on this subject? Seeing none, it brings us to new business. There is a piece of new business. Kevin Johnson is actually leaving the borough. In his resignation letter, he sent a resignation letter. I don't have the date. Sean, help me out with the details if you would, because people may not have seen this yet.
Yeah. The end of last week, we received a letter from Kevin Johnson. I'm resigning my position with Chalfont Borough Planning Commission effective today. Due to COVID-19 impact on employment, I regrettably need to relocate from Chalfont. Chalfont has been a wonderful home, and I'm grateful for all your hard work to maintain and improve this community. Best regards, Kevin Johnson, and it's dated July 8th, 2020.
I will make a motion to accept Kevin Johnson's resignation with some regret, and an additional thank him for his service on the committee.
You should make the motion, Mr. President, effective July 8th of 2020. Accept the resignation, effective July 8th.
And to my motion, I would like to add effective July 8th, 2020. Would anybody make a second?
So moved. Jeff Coddington.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments from council? Kevin has been a real contributor in many ways, and Mayor Wallace, would you be willing to send him a letter thanking him for his service on behalf of Chalfont?
Certainly would. I was just writing his name down now.
Okay, thank you.
I'll find that out.
Okay, now before we do that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have accepted Kevin Johnson's resignation. Also included in the packet is a notice of aqua water rate changes on pages 60 to 62. Sean, do we have any public comment?
No.
Announcements. And let me ask, does anybody else have any other new business? I'm not aware of any.
Mr. President, a question with regard to public comment. Sean, have you received any complaints about fireworks?
We did receive Yes, we had one complaint it was directed to the police department. I believe, I don't know if Carl or but someone had gone out and met with the resident, and it was a dispute between two neighbors, I believe. That was the only complaint that we've had.
Okay. I guess I hear a lot of it on the street. That's why I asked if they actually make their way to you.
I see a lot of complaints on Facebook, but we have not received any on the borough Facebook page directly.
Okay. Yeah, because basically they're illegal to fire off in Chalfont. You can't fire them off with it. There's no space within 150 feet of a unoccupied or occupied building.
Yes, they are illegal in PA, but there are lots of restrictions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my backyard is, although my dog complains. So.
Moving to announcements. Planning Commission will meet Monday, July 27th at 7 p.m. Central Bucks Regional Police Commission will meet Monday, July 27th at 7 p.m. at Doylestown Borough Hall. And I believe, Mayor Wallace, will that be a virtual meeting?
I haven't heard anything otherwise.
Okay.
I put out a question to people a couple of times whether they want to go live, and I got no response. So my understanding is it's virtual.
Okay. HARB meets Monday, August 3rd at 7 p.m. at Borough Hall. And the next council meeting will be Monday, August 10th at 7 p.m. And at this point, I'm going to say virtual unless somebody wants to really change things. But we are investigating Mr. Coddington's suggestion of physical barriers and trying to figure out what we can do in the future. So at this point, let's plan on it being virtual because it does not appear COVID-19 has decided to take the summer off. And with that, if there is nothing else to come before council, would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Lots of seconds. Any objection? In that case, we are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Mark, you got your haircut. No fair.